Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. This is episode number 75. Today we're with Glenn. How's it going, Glenn?
Hello, how you doing, guys?
And as usual, we've got Phil. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Rohan, how's it going?
This episode is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu, Casa. Easily and securely access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that also supports the Home Assistant project. The configuration is done by the user interface, so there's no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or any YAML.
So, Glenn from Belgium.
Yes, indeed.
That's what, 2 episodes in a row we've had Europeans on? That's great.
I know.
Awesome.
It's. I find it comes in waves. We've got Europeans or just
Australians or North Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually. I think lately we've been on a bit of a Kiwi kick too. I think we've had a couple lately that are.
It seems to be picking up around here, to be honest. So a lot of friends of mine in my Twitter feed are picking up Home Assistant. So
Yeah.
a lot of
Everyone
more
in
interest.
lockdown, they want to do something.
Everybody's doing something, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so cloud strikes again, Rohan. Here we go.
It does. So Ben emailed us to let us know that Loop in the UK is pulling support for reading electricity and gas meters for their electricity monitors. So if you use that, you will be getting affected. So it looks like it's as of November 13th, a couple of weeks out as of the time of this recording. Basically, they're shutting it off, so Home Assistant will not be able to retrieve that information. So it's from a company called Loop Energy Saver, which was bought by Trustpower in 2017. And according to their message, basically, it's been challenging for their small business. And basically, they've had to make some difficult decisions because of the pandemic, so on. And basically, they got affected by that. So, which is unfortunate, but I don't know. I didn't read the full message, but Phil, I don't know if you got a chance to, but it sounds like it was just another victim of COVID, unfortunately.
Exactly. It sounds like they're running, an old server somewhere that's costing them money. They're not making any new money because their new products don't use that server anymore. So it's sort of like, well, we're hemorrhaging cash in this pandemic. What can we do to cut costs? And unfortunately, those customers on old technology don't mean enough to this company, so bye-bye.
Yeah, and to some extent, as much as I'm usually like, I hate you, I kind of get it. When you're bleeding, you kind of have to do whatever it takes to stop the loss, right, or stop the bleeding. So it is what it is. But yeah.
And it just sucks that you have to take out if you want to continue using it, you have to buy the whole new product. So, and I'm not sure if that works with Home Assistant either, which is quite annoying.
Yeah.
But I wonder, maybe it'll be like something, it sounds like something the European Union can solve, sort of. I think there's a lot of companies that are, cloud only at the moment. And when stuff like this happens, what's the recourse for customers, right? Like we've seen this with plenty of devices that we've had over the time. So I think, something needs to change here.
I don't think there's an actual law or structure for it, unfortunately. So
yeah,
that's a shame.
I'm sure if the Europeans can do it, they'll do it, right? Because they've got the
probably we would. What we've seen in Belgium is that because it's for electric meters, if I'm correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So in Belgium, we are transitioning to something that the government is actually doing. So there are going to be smart meters for every home. You need to upgrade, and apparently they should be open to get some data out of it. So I'm wondering in the future if we will be able to integrate those. For the moment, I don't have one yet, but they're transitioning them in Belgium to get every home upgraded to those smart meters. Yeah,
that's actually really neat.
Yeah. Actually, someone that listens to the podcast here in Melbourne, Adam, we met up recently in COVID lockdown, and he gave me a Rainforest Eagle, which is a little device that connects to the smart meters around the world. So we here in Victoria have our smart meters, and they use Zigbee to communicate back to the power companies and all that, as well as the internet. Mm-hmm. And I was actually able to set it up. I've got it now running, so it uses Zigbee to connect to my smart meter outside, and I get real-time information. So hopefully in Belgium they'll do something similar.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
That's
because I have no clue. I have no clue what my where everything goes from my electricity. To be honest,
exactly. Right?
Yeah, same. It's kind of just a black hole. I get the bill saying you owe this much. I'm like, oh crap. Okay.
Yeah,
again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. So it's and I got an electric vehicle that's going up too. So that's always fun.
All right, a custom component that is we're sad to see go is the custom header. So Ryan Meek, who created the very popular custom header component, has made the difficult decision to stop working on the integration. So for those unfamiliar, there's obviously the Lovelace UI, and there's a whole bunch of add-ons and custom cards and all that you can install either through the Home Assistant Community Store add-on or manually. And one of these was the custom header. It would basically allow you to do some finer tweaking to the menu item in Home Assistant, change the colors, make it smaller, make it more mobile responsive, anything, like a lot of customizations you could do. Unfortunately, Ryan has said, it's become this, huge, big repository. It's an absolute mess of code. And the next Home Assistant release, which I'm guessing is 0.117, which we're about to talk about, is going to break custom header, and custom header will actually be a cause of performance issues for Home Assistant. So with that started out as a simple project to make the header smaller, ballooned into a bloated monstrosity you see today. So I think, Ryan, thank you very much for all your work. And I know that since the start of Hacktoberfest, he's actually been working on adding a lot of the custom header features into core Home Assistant, so you won't require the custom component anymore. Obviously, it's not going to be completely feature parity from the get-go, but it is good to see that rather than just abandoning it and leaving it out there, he's actually come along and he's starting to add these contributions back into Home Assistant. So Ryan, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and also appreciate the messaging there too, right? Just rather than just leaving it and letting it die, and then
exactly.
Like, it's not working, and it's a much better way to do this. So appreciate the transparency there, Ryan, too. All right, let's talk about 0.117. So this is the first Hacktoberfest release, and there's some new features as expected. So jumping right into it, Scriptimation YAML editor. If you use the automation UI in Home Assistant, now you can go between UI and a YAML editor. So if you don't like the way the UI editor works, you can just flip it on. There's a little the 3 buttons, and you can just hit edit as YAML, and off you go.
This is actually really cool. I like that this is sort of bridging the gap between features that may be missing in YAML mode.
Yeah.
And the UI mode sort of thing. And I guess particularly making it more easier for people to share automations created from the UI.
Yeah.
I know people, may not necessarily want to go in or may not have access to their YAML files all the time. If you're at work and you've got remote access to Home Assistant and you want to show someone, this is my automation in the UI, you can't, easily export it. But now you can just toggle into the YAML mode, copy it, and then give it to someone else who can then paste it into YAML mode, and then go back into the UI and change the entity IDs and all that. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool.
Exactly, right? So it makes that whole config contribution a lot easier as well. So with UI mode. So, and you can always share pieces of it, and obviously remember to scrub it. So if you're any personal data on there too. But that's I think that's pretty neat. So
the interesting thing for me that I would like to know how it will manage multiple files. So if you split up some different parts of your automations, like I do normally, so if it will understand that it has to merge those again.
This is for the automations that are created through the user interface itself, which I believe are just still in the automations.yaml. Yeah. So it won't, if you're using packages or if you split it up, I don't think they'll be supported.
Probably not, no.
Yeah. And again, it is, I think this is the first kind of foray into this as well. So who knows, maybe Glenn, that may, as Home Assistant evolves, that may be something that gets taken in as well.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Right, a new feature that I am absolutely loving this, and I didn't even think like in my wildest dreams that I would love it as much, but I'm very familiar with Visual Studio Code, and I know a couple of people out there love Visual Studio Code as well. But there's a new feature in 0.117 if you're on a desktop or a computer. You can use the shortcut codes that are familiar to Visual Studio Code, so Control P or Command P on a Mac, and also Command Shift P on a Mac. They'll bring up a quick access bar, which will allow you to, quickly access entities. So if you want to turn off a light in the living room, you can press Control P, then type in light.livingroom or just type in living room. And then from there, you'll get the card to control the living room entity. And I do a lot of resetting, reloading automations and all that. There's also using the shift option, so Command Shift P. You can then use access services to reload scripts, reload automations, all from within any page in the Home Assistant UI. So you don't have to go in, configuration, server configuration, and all that sort of jazz. So handy little trick here, and I think this is a fantastic addition.
That's actually really cool. Yeah. Especially if you're used to, again, Visual Studio and coding and that kind of stuff, that's kind of handy. If you're not, then it probably won't be. And remember, if you're below that version, you will get the print dialog. So
yeah, don't press that.
I can confirm because I just realized as I tried it, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I was just trying it in the background, like print dialog. Like, right, I haven't upgraded to 117 just yet. So that would do it. Spotify URIs can now be sent to Sonos players. So that makes it that much easier to, stream music on your Sonos from Spotify.
That is awesome. It has been one of my pain points, I'd always have to add things to a Sonos favorites, so I could then tell Home Assistant to play like a playlist. Okay. Because previously, if you wanted to play something on Spotify on Sonos, I think you had to do some crazy, either add as a favorite or something else, right?
Really? Okay.
But yeah, maybe I didn't look into it hard enough, but adding the ability to just send in these URIs to Sonos is going to be so much easier now.
That's actually handy. So in a case like this, Home Assistant would grab it, push that URI, and just essentially force Sonos to play that.
Yeah, it also gives continuity. So you could send the same URL that you would send to maybe like a Google Cast or whatever other media player you've got, even the Spotify media player component. It doesn't matter if you're casting it to now a Spotify media player or a Sonos speaker. It's the same URI, and it will just play on the right platform.
I feel like every time I talk to you, Phil, I find that there a restriction about the Sonos platform. It kind of makes me happy that I just bought Amazon Echoes all over the house.
I understand that, but I'm very happy with my Sonos system. I think it's the way it integrates with Home Assistant is fantastic. There's some quirks like this that are now resolved.
Yeah.
But if you want to play something on your Amazon Echo devices, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to use a custom component. It's going to be fiddly. You're going to have to authenticate.
Yes.
All that sort of stuff, right? And then, of course, if Amazon decides to restrict those APIs in the future, you're up shit creek, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas with Sonos, their idea is that they are a network media player. So far, they have been sort of keeping their APIs standard and they're not taking them away. Yeah. I know there was some concern that they might be doing that. I don't think that's the case, though. I think they would get a lot of backlash for it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, that's actually a really good way to look at that too. So I didn't think of it that way.
I actually did something similar just recently. Yeah. So I still have a huge offline list of music. So it's digital, but still it's offline. But I also like to play a lot of Spotify.
Yep.
And I was unable to merge those two. It's been crazy. They always have to shift between different software types and everything. And now I recently installed Forked DAP. I don't know if you know that. It's a small media server that you can put on a Raspberry Pi. So I'm now also running it in Docker on my Intel NUC.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And it listens on your network to all AirPlay devices, but also on all Chromecast devices. I'm not sure if Sonos is available. I'm not sure. But all the others are. And then there's an integration for Home Assistant. And then you can just say, okay, forked DAPD, just play this. And then you can select which player that you want to stream it to. So, because in ForkDAP website, you can say, I want to have integration with Spotify, then all your playlists and library comes in there. You can point to a local folder, so all my music gets integrated there. And you can also put in stream links. So if you have online radios, they broadcast their links. You can also add them there, and then you can even have radio streamed to any player that you want in your house.
That's cool. So you would select like an Apple audio. What are they? Sorry, what are they called?
So the HomePod.
You can select AirPlay as a target, and it will play on those AirPlay compatible speakers.
Indeed. And you can also multi-broadcast. So you can say I want to play on those three. Or anything like that, or toggle between them, or set the volume, anything, and all from Home Assistant now. So that's very nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah, we'll have to leave a link in the show notes to that for people if they want to check that out too.
All right, great.
Yeah, and do you typically like how do you? Oh, well, I guess we'll get to this later, but just to kind of short circuit it a little bit, just because I'm curious right now, and I have no patience. Do you typically use your phone to drive that, or do you say do you have it linked to your Amazon Echo or something and saying, "Hey, play this on my Chromecast" or whatever?
No, for the moment I'm still manually starting things. Yeah. So what ForkDAPD normally also should be able to do is integrate with the remote app on your iPhone. So we are very Apple-minded here at home for those devices.
Okay.
So I have a Denon receiver and it allows AirPlay, so that's the connection to play. But unfortunately, because I'm running in a Docker container, I was unable to link that up.
Right.
But still, there is a website that you can open and see your whole collection and trigger that. And then it will start playing on any AirPlay receiver that you want. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
I've heard about it. I've read into it, but I've never actually tried it myself. Right.
So there's a very good. Maybe I'll send it through to you later. There's a very good YouTube explanation about it by James Peterson, and it goes through the whole setup and all the things why he loves it and everything, and it just does all the installation, and you can see how he done it on a Raspberry Pi. So nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we can stick that in the show notes as well. So
all right, so back to 0.117. We've got a new media player repeat set service. So I know a whole bunch of different ways that you can actually toggle this in Home Assistant previously, and a lot of different integrations will do similar or in different things. So there's now a standard repeat set service. So if you want to repeat a song or repeat a playlist, make sure that the music never stops, it can now be done. And I believe the first one that uses this platform is actually Sonos. So that's good to see as well, yeah.
Also, another feature added this release is a new Xbox component. So we know there's been a PS4 component in Home Assistant for a little bit. So Xbox is now joining that party. So Jason Hunter, who is actually on episode 47, has created this component, which is awesome. I've actually seen or I've heard a decent amount of buzz about this already. So
yeah, it's been everywhere, right?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking of adding it for my Xbox, and I just started picking up my Xbox again. So I was like, okay, cool. This is also why Glenn, I was saying earlier, I've been going to bed at like 3 a.m. every day. It's not because I was doing anything productive. It's it's just because I was like, you know what I should get back into is playing my Xbox. So
actually, there's actually one thing that we don't have yet at home, having an Xbox or any other.
Yeah.
We only have a Wii, so for the small girls at home.
Yeah, that's it's probably better without it.
Understandable.
But it's actually pretty handy. So today I actually drive it all through my Amazon Echo and my Harmony Hub. Which has been pretty handy, but this is actually really nice to see. So I may give this a whirl, but
you could do some crazy Amazon intent skills. So you could do like, hey Echo, play, I don't know, Big Bang Theory on Netflix or something, and you could have the Xbox open up Netflix and then open up this, because there's a full remote control available. So all the buttons on your controller are available to be mimicked from Home Assistant. So you could then press up, down, whatever the code is to get the search box in Netflix, and then type in Big Bang Theory, find the first result, play it, and away you go.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true. But that would be a hard mapping, right?
Yeah. And if Netflix ever update their UI, you could accidentally start playing something, and then you'll get something completely wrong in your recommendations for the rest of your life.
I'd be more worried about Xbox changing their UI because they change it like, man, it feels like weekly.
Well, no, so the integration allows you to specify, I believe, the app name. So it wouldn't matter
perfect.
where in the interface Netflix is, you would specify, open this app or open this game from Xbox.
That's very neat. Okay, that is really cool. Nice. Yeah, might be something to play with.
Exactly, right? A new button that I'm really happy, and the other thing, it's one of those small things, right? It's a dismiss all notification button in the notifications dialog. So there's that notifications dialog in the left-hand side of your Home Assistant. If you've got multiple notifications, it's a pain in the bum to have to go in and press dismiss on all of them. But now, right at the bottom, there's that little dismiss all button. Just makes things neater.
I feel like this should have been a WTA month of WTH.
Maybe it is.
I hope. Yeah.
Right. Surely that would be something that would be in that.
Yeah, because I've also wondered that in the past. I'm like, man, why can't they dismiss all? So that's great. Persistent notifications in TTS can now be configured for notifications. So that means if you're adding it to notification groups, things like that, you can actually just toss in a persistent notification or text-to-speech in there too. It doesn't have to be a separate service call, which is really nice, actually.
When I started using alerts, I always wondered why I couldn't do like a TTS as an alert, right? Because it wasn't a notification platform or whatever.
Yeah.
And now that this is in, it actually is going to make alerts so much more user-friendly, I think. So that's a great contribution.
Yeah, yeah. I actually use and I apologize for saying it, that's what it's called, the Alexa Media integration, which is a custom component that comes in. I have to use two separate lines in my configuration. One to send a notification to to the companion app, my Home Assistant companion app on my phone, and then one to simultaneously also get my Amazon Echo to say, back doors open or whatever it is. So that'll make things a little nicer, I think. So.
Yeah, much nicer. Yeah.
There's also one of the advantages of that forked DAPD is that it allows TTS on all devices. So, like my Denon receiver doesn't have the implementation, so it's not implemented yet. But because of this middle thing, we can do it for you and streams it to any device now. So
that's actually really neat. Yeah.
What's the TTS provider that it uses? Is just like Google Translate?
The one from Home Assistant. So, but you configured from Home Assistant. So because it has a plugin in Home Assistant, so you do the TTS there and then sends it on. Yeah,
perfect.
That makes sense because then Home Assistant converts it, sends it off as a file or whatever.
Yeah, as an MP3 actually.
Yeah.
All right, some breaking changes, and as usual, there's heaps, but we're going to give you some highlights. The first major change is going to be regarding templates. So this could or could not affect you. I use templates a lot throughout my Home Assistant instance, and I haven't found any issues yet, touch wood. I'm sure there's a random automation somewhere that is going to be affected. But essentially, the return type of templates has changed. So generally before 0.117, a Home Assistant template could return just a string. So now you can do more than that. So you can return numbers, which I guess to some people might be the same. They're actually treated differently when it comes down to that level. And they can also return lists. So this is going to be great if you want to build up a group of entity IDs. I know I ran into this issue when I wanted to do my grouping of speakers. I wanted to dynamically choose which speakers would be part of my Sonos groups. And to do that, I had to create, scripts for each speaker, group in this speaker, group in this speaker. But now I can just use a template to build out the list of, all the media players that should be part of that group and pass that into the media player turn on service. So this is going to be a great little feature, but it does come with the caveat that there may be some parts of your template somewhere that are returning you're expecting returning a string, but now may change that type, and it may have an effect elsewhere. So just when you're upgrading, just go and check out as many of your templates that you can, make sure they're still working as you expect them to.
All right. Also, the Cloudflare component has changed a little bit, so it's now got to be reconfigured through the UI. So if you have it set up through YAML, you will need to remove that config and bring it back in with the UI. Also, it'll now use API tokens, which is actually a lot better way of doing it too. It scales a lot better. So if you need to update your records and things like that on Cloudflare, that's how you do it now.
And Australian Bureau of Meteorology, or as us Aussies call it, the BOM, has been removed as a component from Home Assistant. It did use web scraping, which, as we've talked about on previous episodes, is no longer, or is pretty much frowned upon now by Home Assistant. It's no longer officially supported. So that component has had to go. It really sucks that the BOM doesn't have a nice API that Home Assistant can use. I would love to use the more local weather here instead of having to rely on the dark sky, or which is going to go in any way. Or I think it's YRNO or whatever flavor we have to use now.
Yeah.
But hopefully that'll be moved over to HAX. I'm hoping it has. I haven't seen it there yet, but if it is, I'll be reintegrating that.
Yeah, hopefully that works. All right. Glenn. It's all about you.
Finally.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your Home Assistant journey. How long have you been using it? How'd you get into it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, so when my wife and I got together, eventually we had the plan to build our own house. So we did. But I'm in IT. So I program whole day.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to have some of our things being automated already. But that was 14 years ago, so there was not a lot on the market, or it was closed circuit. And we went with
expensive.
Yeah, indeed. Very expensive. Very. Yeah, to be honest, yeah. But still, we did it. And we selected Biticino for it. So Biticino is an Italian company. It's now also merged together with Legrand. I think it's big in Belgium also. But at the time, we placed a central core unit that could trigger all our lights already. So been using that. But from in the beginning, there was a configuration side we had to do from Biticino themselves. So you could say this toggle for that light now, but I could switch that. So I could say, no, today this toggle will turn on that other light or anything else. So the toggles were separated from the lightings. That was also a big win. And the other big win was that we could integrate some sensors in it. So in our hallway at the front, if someone comes up at the door, the outdoor lighting already automatically goes on. So when it's dark, because it also has a luminance sensor. So that was the things that we did in the beginning, but I was unable to integrate it with anything else. So I always had to use the Biticino website.
Right.
Yeah, and that for the software, for the core component, and that was it.
And what sort of technology were they using? Were they like Z-Wave, Zigbee, or were they using some proprietary?
It's their own net standard. So it's called Open Web. You can find it on Wikipedia. It's completely documented. It's a bus system, so it's actually string tokens that go around, and each component picks it up and sees the token to see, okay, do I need to do something with it or anything? And as time progressed, because it's an open protocol, many people did some integrations with it, and the first one I found was OpenHAP. So in 2017. A good friend of mine, Nico, was doing a lot of stuff with OpenHAP already and was telling me about it. So that was the first time I bought a Raspberry Pi, actually, a Raspberry Pi 2. And I've set it up, and it had an Biticino integration. And actually, since then, I was able to control my lights also from other devices or talk to it through Siri on my iPhone.
Cool.
So that was a big leap for us, because now everybody in house could just shout to turn on lights or do anything. So that was a big leap forward. But to be honest, OpenHAP is not that easy at that time. I think for us programmers, it's okay, toggling with the files and anything. But even at that time, it was very strict. So I still like YAML a little bit more, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even though you have the indentation, but the OpenHAP filing is even more strict, I think. So it's not that easy. And then, so by random luck, I guess, I found Home Assistant. But the big no-no there was that the Biticino plugin was not available. So I had to search for one. Even on HAX at the time, it wasn't available. And then there was a GitHub repo that I found that had the integration. And it actually worked. So yeah, since then I jumped ship and went from Home Assistant. So, and of course with Home Assistant, because the community is very huge, I was able to integrate a lot of other stuff that was around the house. So now my television, the Chromecasts, my receiver, everything, my alarm. I have a very sure alarm, so we can now toggle that. It's amazing. Of course, because you're toying around with it for years, you also upgrade. So I went from a Raspberry Pi 2 to a 3, then to a 3 with an SSD boot. And now, I think for a month now I'm on an Intel NUC because, of course, then you start playing with Docker and instances, and then I'm running MB as a media player for my movies and such. And I was running on a separate Raspberry Pi, and I thought, now I have the Intel NUC, so let's put everything on that. So now it's running several Docker containers on it, and I needed some more power, so yeah. That's my journey, actually.
That's interesting. I you know what, this is, and maybe I've come across it before, and I haven't just noticed, but this is the first time I think I'm hearing of Bitachino. And
it's very European, I guess, to be honest. But the good thing, for me, the good thing is that we already set up on that while constructing the house, is that now all my lights are already in Home Assistant. I don't have to put an extra hub or use special bulbs or anything for that. All the lightings are just inside of my Home Assistant. And there were also several other things. So in our bathroom, we have a fan. Because if the moisture gets too much, we put on a fan. And also now, because of the integration with Home Assistant, I can automate that if needed. So put sensors in the house that automatically puts on the fan if needed. So all thanks to the fact that we already selected for a central core system to do all the automation. That was okay.
Nice. That's awesome.
So how does that communicate with Home Assistant? Is there like a hub or a bridge somewhere?
No, so the core component of Bitachino handles that. It's actually a web server, and that triggers all the open web commands. So So
does that go up to their cloud, or is there something?
No, it's completely local. Yeah, there's no cloud connection at all. So I don't need internet connection for it. Everything still works. But the only thing that you need to do, because it's just on your network, it's just TCP protocol, so nothing special. But you need to convert the commands to their commands, of course, and that's why somebody needs to write and plug in for Home Assistant. And just recently I switched to a newer one. It's created by Julien. I think he's from Luxembourg. And he did a great integration. So because the previous one was completely in YAML, and you guys know that the Home Assistant is trying to move developers over to the UI integration parts. And Julien said, okay, let's do a rewrite. He done a complete rewrite, his own implementation, and now it's completely in the UI also. So it picks it up that you have a Bitachino server running. Yeah, and I just have to click, and it's all integrated. So it's amazing.
That's awesome.
The guy did a great job. I love it.
Yeah.
And then there's even for Bitachino, there's even a client for Mac and PC that you can start up, and then it just scans the network, and then you see all the commands going by. That you can see if I press a button, you see it's that command, so you can just look it up and use it if you want to. So.
That's really nice, actually.
Yeah, they were very open protocol for that, so that's cool.
Yeah, basically a built-in debug mode, if you want to call it that, right?
Indeed.
Which is really nice.
That's also awesome.
Yeah.
And what I also have is in several rooms at the first floor of our house. So instead of having, how do you call it, thermostats, so the things that toggle the heating. Yep. So normally what people would do, turn them manually. In your room it's too hot, you turn it down. Or if you have a smart dial, you can set it to a temperature and it will turn it yourself. But what Bitachino has done, they put those turns on the valves themselves, so they are in the garage, and then several rooms have small thermostats, and it will monitor. And now with Home Assistant, I can set the temperature. I say, okay, for that room it needs to be 20, and as soon as it's above 20, it turns the valve down so that the heating goes down. So you don't have to do anything with your radiator. So it's on the pipes itself. So that's amazing. Yeah.
That's actually really handy, because I know even like for us, I have, like in my house, I have a central heat system, right? But so I forget what the actual proper term is, but forced air, whatever. So, but even with us, I mean, I have an Ecobee at home that I use, and it's got the remote sensors or whatever. But even then, it's not like I can't say
which
warm this room up to this temperature.
Okay, no, that's
right?
not true. That's not possible for me either. No.
Yeah.
Okay. No. The interface allows it, but still, because I'm also working with one central unit, is that the central unit still needs to have one temperature set.
Got it.
So even though if I want to have it to 25 in a certain room, like the bathroom, it's not possible because the central heating will only go to 23 or something like that. So that's still annoying.
Yeah.
And that's because at the lower floor we have floor heating, and floor heating is not that good if you change the temperature too much. It needs to be at a steady pace to be well. And that's why. So maybe in the future, if I put in a new heating system, maybe we can have two separate meters to have one for the top floor and one for the down floor. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, floor heating, I'm fairly, if I remember correctly, it's pretty inefficient too, just in terms of its energy usage and stuff, right? So how to minimize that too. But I will say, I love heated floors.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't have them personally, but I've been to houses that do, and they are so nice.
Yeah, if it's winter and we come downstairs and we go to the kitchen and we don't wear any sneakers or anything. It's amazing that you have a warm floor and warm feet. It's
so nice. My parents' house, I'm in one of their bathrooms, and just because it gets really cold on
indeed, for the bathroom we have it too. Yeah, it's cool.
And it's like I showered there when they first moved in. I was just helping them move in, whatever. So I was just staying there, and I got in and I showered, and I was like, wow, this is so nice.
I can promote it for sure. It's amazing.
That's right.
I'm surprised that it's not energy efficient though. Like that seems a bit of a...
I mean, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time to get to a certain temperature. So I think they mentioned it. It's 1 temperature per hour, something like that. That's a golden rule.
Right.
So that's why you need to have to keep it at a certain level, because otherwise it's very difficult to regulate.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's literally just a heated coil.
Yeah.
Right. So you can only get so efficient with heating a wire or heating a coil of some kind. Right. So I think and maybe technology has changed since my parents put that in. But I doubt it.
Because it's tubed, so it's with water going through. So you have several systems. Yeah.
So Glenn, how are you driving Home Assistant now? I know you mentioned before that you've since being able to integrate your Amazon Echo devices and all that. Is that you primarily using voice? Have you got tablets around the house or anything fancy?
Just to be clear, we don't have any Amazon things of Google, no problem. So we only have some iPhones and iPads from Apple.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
So especially for the kids and my wife, they drive it through that because it's easy. The HomeKit integration is awesome with Home Assistant.
Yeah,
it's even been made better since 1.15, I guess. So everything that's now in my Home Assistant setup will be ported over to HomeKit, and everyone in the house just uses that. And then depending on who's doing it, they'll use Siri to talk to it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, it's mostly me. I always shout around, like, do this, do that. And the kids toggle more, so they're just doing their thing on their phones.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the main things. For me, I also use the Home Assistant web interface a lot. Mainly because of my job, I'm always behind a PC, so then it's just easy to open that. And I also have the companion app on my iPhone, and that's always been amazing also. Yeah.
So are you set up with the HomeKit integration that I haven't used HomeKit myself, I'm an Android user, so is your Home Assistant set up in that it is a HomeKit controller, I'm guessing, that it then broadcasts your entities out through to the iOS devices to control?
True. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So all the lightings are now available, grouped.
Right.
And like I said, the bathroom fan is now available. Recently, I also integrated an ESP8266 to my garage.
Nice.
And that's integrated in Home Assistant. And because Home Assistant knows that thing, we can now also put it into HomeKit. And now I can shout to my iPhone to open the garage door. So that has been an eye opener that you can just drive up to the garage and just shout to your car. Yep, because we have Apple Car also.
Yeah.
So you can shout to it. Yeah, open the garage and then it goes open. So
There's a whole lot of yelling that's going on.
Yeah,
in your
indeed.
household,
I like to yell. I love Siri, to be honest. So so we do use that a lot, and also with the Versweyveld alarm. So now we can also unlock it through voice commands if your iPhone is unlocked. So that's amazing. So that's the barrier, of course. If you talk to your iPhone, you can send it commands for Siri if it's locked. So, but like an alarm, Apple says no, your phone first needs to be unlocked before that command goes through. So there's an extra barrier.
Yeah,
that's nice. And the kids love that. So they don't have any keys anymore for the house. They come to the garage, put off the alarm, open the garage, all through commands, and then go in. That's amazing.
Oh, that's actually really cool. Yeah. So that way they're not gonna lose their keys down the drain.
No, they don't have to worry about it anymore. The only problem if the Wi-Fi goes down, then we have a issue. Then we can go into the garage.
It's so funny because what happens now is I've kind of gotten to that state. So my car now has an app for it, whatever, so that I can use to open, close, whatever. So I just need to take my phone with me, and I think I mentioned this on one of the older episodes, but I got a Kivo lock, which is Bluetooth based as well.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest. I'll be the first one to tell you that it is very slow. But whatever, it works eventually, right? So, but now it's gotten to the point, and then it's gotten to the point. But I realized because I don't have a garage door and a front door, I just have a front door.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, and I guess I got a back door, but I'm not going all the way around the back of the house. And I was like, okay, great, this is awesome. I don't need keys and everything. And I was like, crap, what happens if my Kivo battery dies? Right? And so then I
what happens if your phone battery dies? More to the point.
Yeah, same issue.
And that too, right? I mean, I can always charge my phone in the car, worst case. True. Right? But I'm just like, oh man. So then now I've gone back to just carrying. I don't pull it out ever, but I'm carrying an extra set of keys in my on my person, I guess. But it's or I'll like hide it somewhere or whatever. And
you need to buy one of those fake rocks that you can actually just put keys inside and hide in your garden somewhere.
I'm pretty sure everybody knows that's a fake rock at this point.
Oh, nice rock, Rohan.
Yeah. You have one awkwardly placed rock here. Yeah, so it's I don't think those things work anymore.
No, we don't do that.
No, but it is still a really nice feeling to just not have to reach for your keys every time. So I completely get that one, Glenn. That was the point of what I was trying to say. But
yeah. Since we have it, it's being used each day. It's amazing. Yeah. I love it a lot. Yeah. And that all thanks to Home Assistant, to be for sure, because otherwise I would never have known ESP Home to exist, and I would never have known that you could easily wire up those ESP32s or 8266.
Yeah,
it's just amazing. It's just one click, upload your file, and it does what you want to do. And of course we buy everything on AliExpress, so it's dirt cheap. So
yeah.
€2 or $2 for a sensor, it's amazing.
It might take a month to get to you, but
of course, and I don't mind because I don't mind.
Hey, when you're saving this much, I'll wait an extra 15 days, whatever.
And then in a month's time, you've forgotten about it, and then you go, "Ooh, what presents have I got in the mail?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened to me on several occasions too. So
only the scheme of it is not so good, I think, because if I'm not mistaken, it's because of the China is actually helping companies with their transport fees, so that's why it's so dirt cheap, because they want to be the major.
Interesting.
The major country in the world to have such demand, of course.
Yeah.
So it's always in dubio to do it, but it's dirt cheap. So sorry.
Something's got to give somewhere, right? Yeah. So from a presence perspective, I know you mentioned you guys, you and your family all have iOS devices. So what kind of stuff are you doing in that sense?
Yeah. So for my wife and I, we installed a companion app. It has been our main drive for GPS location.
Okay.
So we have 2 zones, our working zones, and then the home zone. And then depending on if one or the other isn't at home, if the kids come at home, we get a notification. I know it's a little bit Big Brother, but on the other hand, they're still young and they're driving with their bikes themselves. So it's always reassuring that we get a small notification. Yep, the kids are home. So that's amazing. Yeah. So we don't follow the kids with the companion app, so we don't follow the GPS tracking. But as soon as they always carry their iPhones. You know, kids, they're completely into everything on their phone. So as soon as they come onto my Unify Wi-Fi, because of the integration with Home Assistant, I get the notification if I'm not at home, if my wife is not at home. Yeah. So that's the main driving force there. And then also I have a guest network set up through the Unify network with no passkey. And a lot of people, when they come into my home, they automatically connect to that. So that's nice. So all those devices are also visible. So if now the cleaning lady leaves the house, also the Unify Wi-Fi knows this. And then if we're not at home, I get a notification for that, and I can put on my alarm. So she doesn't have to know the alarm key anymore. So the PIN code.
Oh, that's nice.
So depending, it doesn't matter which cleaning lady comes. As soon as their mobile phone is detected, I can get the notification and trigger the alarm myself. Oh, that's amazing.
So how do you know if what's stopping me from being the cleaning lady on that day and just putting my phone on your network? How do you know?
Because that's true. So the first time I wouldn't know. So the first time if you come into our house and you connect, you have to connect, of course. If you don't connect to our Wi-Fi, I don't know. But then each device will have its MAC address and a name. And then as soon as I have the MAC address, I know, okay, that's a device I want to track. And then I put it in Home Assistant, and then I know when it's leaving from the network, and then I know. Yeah. So with the cleaning lady, I know if it's that time and the device is disconnected, then I know she's out of the house, and then I put it on the alarm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just better hope she doesn't get a new phone without telling you. Right?
Yeah. The first day, if she gets a new phone, I wouldn't know. But the next day, I would know because if she connected to the Wi-Fi, I can see the MAC address again and see the name. So,
Well, I was going to say too, because now iOS 14 has a lot more privacy features in that sense, right? Where they do like randomization of your MAC address and things like that.
Okay. Cool.
They've done it for a while with the Bluetooth radios, but on the Wi-Fi radios now. And just
maybe then that wouldn't work anymore. Yeah, maybe.
It'll work, but it might just change right for that first time. But it's I know being pretty in the industry and whatnot, and dealing with retail customers that rely on this kind of stuff for essentially data mining customers and stuff. It's causing a huge stir up, right? Where because a lot of people are very concerned about this, right? Both retailers that are trying to gather this information as well as vendors and such as well. So that actually does make for an interesting time. So I'd love to know.
At least the naming of the phone is also ported. So I don't know if that stays the same then maybe because the alias of the device is also being shown in Unify. I don't know how they get that, but that's also available. So yeah. To maybe because if I'm not mistaken, the actual device tracker that's being created in Home Assistant is actually using that name and not the MAC address. You can see the MAC address, but it's using the naming convention. So maybe
then
that
it should be
fine. Hopefully.
I know because when I tried it at home, I had mine because you can do it on a per SSID basis now.
Cool.
Both of them actually showed up on. I use Meraki at home. And both of them actually showed up as the same device name. So it showed up as like Rohan's iPhone or whatever. And I got 2 entries for that, right? Just because 2 separate MAC addresses is what they index on. So, So it's just, again, a heads up for yourself and I guess anybody else that's listening that's using MAC addresses as an indicator of
it's good to know.
presence.
I didn't know that they wanted to change that. Yeah, that's cool.
It's done more for privacy because if I go to let's say I go to retailer A and I join in their Wi-Fi and I go to retailer B, I really don't want, I want a unique MAC address per retailer. So what happens is it still stays per SSID. So let's say if they come back tomorrow, let's say they come with a new address and they come back, it'll stay the same. But if they go somewhere else, like if they go from your house to my house, as an example, it'll be a different MAC address that it shows me than it shows you. Yeah, it's probably way deeper than we needed to get into for that. But
no, it's quite interesting, to be honest.
Yeah. Just so you're aware as well. And I guess for anybody else listening, if there is a reliance on MAC address for that, so you might notice some
it might be
awkwardness.
Good for people that might have multiple homes, like a summer home or a holiday house.
Yeah.
That if they're running multiple instances and they're expecting to have the same MAC address for their phone, from one house to the next house. That could be an issue.
Exactly. There is a way. So if you go in, once you're joined, if you go in and you can actually turn off, if you go into that wireless network, you can actually turn off the randomization per SSID. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Nice. And in the end, we also have the door sensors. So even though if I don't know if she physically left the Wi-Fi, I still know when the door is being open and closed if I'm not at home.
So do they have a key that they still use, or are you just purely relying on their phone?
So for the moment, because of when she starts cleaning, we're still in the house. So the only thing is that if she leaves, we're not at home typically, because then we're at work. So for me, that was the only trigger I needed to know. When does she leave? Yeah.
Just lock the door behind her, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's everything that she needs to do. And,
Perfect.
What kind of lock do you use, just out of curiosity?
How do you mean? What lock? No, we don't have special locks at our door. So like I said, we only have an alarm system with door sensors. That's why I needed to have the notification that she leaves the house, because she doesn't have to need a PIN code for the alarm. And then I just trigger it. Yeah, that's
got it.
So actually the front door won't be strictly fully locked, but the alarm is armed. So yeah.
Excellent. So now a cat burglar just needs to come in, open up the front door, and go and be like James Bond.
That's right.
Missing all your motion sensors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So what are your favorite automations apart from your cleaning lady automations that you've got? Do you have any other favorite automations that you're really impressed that you've done with Home Assistant?
Yes, actually the small things are mostly the best things, I guess, because it gets the friction away from things that are annoying. So one of the things that we found out was that when I bought a new receiver from Deno a few years back, because it was an AirPlay receiver, I could stream Spotify to it, and I do that a lot. So if we're at home and downstairs, I just play music from it. Yep. But it's set at a certain volume, of course, and then in the evening we want to see some television, or the other way around, to somebody's on some television, I want to play some music. So the main volume just stays, of course. And then depending on which stream that you do, especially for movies, the volume has to be much higher. So the next day, if I play music, then music
blasting
way too loud, and everybody's awake. So what I do is then just listen for the source list in my Deno receiver. If it toggles to a certain source, so like Spotify, it will use a condition to see if it's above a certain volume. If so, then I just set the volume down if needed. So that are the small things, but you don't have to worry about anything anymore, and just do your thing, what you want to do, and the receiver will just put the correct volume if needed. So that's amazing. I love that.
That's awesome. I love just simple. I wouldn't say that's a simple automation. Just little things that just kind of enhance your daily experience, right? To me, that's what automation's about. So that one's really nice. I really like that one.
Indeed, yeah. And the other one that's also been a big plus for us is that sometimes we're just people, of course. We go to sleep, we put on the alarm. Next day we wake up, we come down. Yeah, we forgot the light in that room. Yeah, we forgot the light in that room. So it always happens. So because of the fact that the alarm system is now solely in Home Assistant, I could just monitor also that state. And if it goes to sleeping mode, I just turn off all the lightings downstairs. So it's just, like I said, the little things that make the big difference. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I've been toying around with programming those ESPs. So like I said, the garage door opener, was also a big plus. And the other thing, we have a water softener at home.
Yeah.
It's actually a big bucket where you put in salt tablets.
Mm-hmm.
And then each night the water is being passed through to soften the water. And yeah, for sure, I always forgot to put in new tablets. So it could have been weeks that it did its job, but actually not softening the water because there were no salt tablets. So I put in a distance sensor with an ESP, and now it's in Home Assistant, and I can see how much salt tablets are still in the bucket. So
that's cool.
I was going to ask about that because I was like, do you do by weight? Do you do by whatever? But it's just a great way to.
It's just a distance sensor. Yeah,
that's really cool.
I'm going to ask a really basic question. What is softening water?
Oh, okay. So if you're oh damn! Now I need to know all the English words, of course.
I'll help you along the way.
Okay, so if you're at a certain area in where you live, all water coming into your house is different. So there's more. Is calcium?
Calcium and chlorine, I think, is two things.
And I think it's especially the calcium that gives off residue at your taps.
Right.
So the white residue that you get there, but it also annoys with your washers.
Yep.
So of course.
Interesting.
And if you put in a water softener, so a little device that sits between the water supply and your house utilities, you wouldn't have that much issues. So even for your ironing machine, it's not good because you need special water and stuff like that. So that machine resolves those problems. Yeah. If you put in salt, of course. If you forget that, it won't work.
It's not going to do anything. Yeah. Well, exactly, right? So it's actually the house that I grew up in, my parents' old house. That one, like when we bought the house, it came with a water softener. And we're like, that was the first time any of us were like, what's this?
What's this?
And they're like, oh yeah, just add salt every couple of months and you're fine. And we're like, salt?
Yeah, indeed. It's amazing.
Right. And it was that's actually a great explanation of it, Glenn. Where basically so even I don't know if you found this, but even when you like shower and things like that, like you add soap and you scrub, and essentially it just feels like there's just more soap than there actually is. I still remember as a kid, I was like, is this soap not going off of me? Like what's going on here? And but basically, it just removes that they call it hardness in the water, right? So so if you wash like a glass cup as an example, if you wash a glass and you let it to dry and you come back and you see there's like white water spots on it, that's a really good indication of harder water. Right. So basically the salt just ionizes it and then drops it down and you run the water through it essentially and it removes a lot of that calcium.
Yeah.
Today I learned.
It's basically actually it's mostly for the appliances that they can live longer because of the fact that there are not a lot of
so like your dishwashers, washing machine and all that.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on where you live, you may or may not.
Of course.
Like, where I am now is water's actually not bad, so we don't have one, but
okay, cool.
Yeah.
And lastly, the thing I like also is that I now built a small watch for my desk, also triggered with an ESP, and it has a small matrix with LEDs, a max 7219, 5 of them combined.
Okay.
And because of the ASP, I have a small web server running on it that allows REST commands. And for the moment, I can show it to weather forecast and my clock. And in Home Assistant, I now have buttons to trigger that. So that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Is that?
Sorry?
That's in your garage?
No, it's on my desk.
Nice.
It's a small thing. I think I sent you the pictures to you guys.
Yes. Yeah, we'll put them in
so
the
it's a small cubicle of wood with the LEDs in it, and it's sitting on my desk and beside my computer. And this is nice. Just triggering those small things from Home Assistant is amazing.
Yeah. That is really neat. Wicked. I think that's really all we had for today. Anything to close off on, Glenn? Or?
Well, actually, maybe that's I have something. I try to follow Home System a lot, and I follow you guys. You're a good source of information.
Thank you.
But it seems that the guys from Home Assistant are taking it more and more professional. Good for us because a lot of features come in, but I can't follow anything anymore. It's like the releases are so fast behind. It's like in the early days we could wait a few things, toy around with stuff, and now it's like every 2 weeks I have to learn something new. I go into my settings and see like, damn, what did they change now? Oh, what's something isn't showing anymore in Lovelace, but what do I need to change now and stuff like that. So for me, they're going quite fast lately. It's like if it would be nice if they slow down a little bit.
It's good and bad, right? I mean,
it's amazing that a lot of things come
progress,
in, but still.
It's hard to keep up. I think they're aiming for that. Just that point where they can minimize the breaking changes and things like that. I think that's the thing, right? And
it's true.
New features are whatever. You don't have to use them, right?
No,
but the breaking changes, I think, are just mostly what's important for kind of daily continuing operations, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. And besides your podcast from you guys, I also follow now Zach Barrett. He started picking up those YouTube videos from the new features.
Yeah, because he does a lot of work on the
he does a lot of the UI work on it.
Yeah.
And those are also amazing because then you actually see what he's explaining. And it's a great pro tip for new people that want to get into it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, and that's also the problem with open source, right? Like, if Home Assistant doesn't move fast enough, people won't be interested to keep getting involved, and
also
you slow it down, people will lose interest. Then if you go too fast, it's a balancing act. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for taking the time out of your weekend to talk to us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much. If you want to share your Home Assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@hasspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics that we discussed today, check out our show notes on hasspodcast.io.